Quite a way to bounce back. The New York Mets take 3 out of 4 against the San Francisco Giants after a terrible series over in St. Louis to round out the road trip. My thoughts and a lot more coming up on the Bleed Orange and Blue podcast.
Meet the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life, because the Mets are really socking the ball, knocking those home runs over the wall. East side, west side, everybody's coming down to meet the METS Mets of New York Town.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Bleed Orange and Blue podcast. My name is TJ Labby, and on this episode, it's a series recap as we talk about the New York Mets and the San Francisco Giants, their recent 4-game series this past weekend. The Mets taking 3 out of 4 against the San Francisco Giants after a very rough series over in St. Louis to round out the road trip. And I have to say, I know last week I ranted a lot. It was not the greatest of looks. I really doubted this team after a very rough stretch over in St. Louis, and I thought the team was done, and I bashed Marcus Semien, and it was not the greatest, but I have to be honest, they shut me up. They took 3 out of 4 against the Giants, and they're on a 3-game winning streak heading back home to New York. Yesterday was their off day. Today, they're back in action against the Arizona Diamondbacks in approximately 4 hours at 4:10 over at Citi Field. But let's recap this recent series against the San Francisco Giants. So they lost Game 1, 7-2 against the Giants. Robbie Ray got the win for the Giants. David Peterson had a horrendous start for the Mets, and Blade Tidwell, a former Met, got his first career save. The stat lines for this game: Peterson, again, did not have the greatest of starts. 4 1/3 innings pitched, 9 hits, 5 earned runs, 6 runs allowed, 5 of them were earned, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts. It was a horrible day for David Peterson. It was not one of his very efficient starts. Chaminade then came in to piggyback out of the bullpen, and he did actually decently. He had 3 2/3, 4 hits, 1 earned run, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts, giving up a home run to, Rafael Devers in the bottom of the 6th. It was pretty much over, but the shouting after the bottom of the 2nd inning, it was all over after the 3rd, because it was already 5-2. The Mets offense just could not get anything going. They barely had runners on all night. It was not the greatest of looks. And when you looked at Game 1, you're like, all your feelings are justified. St. Louis was a terrible road trip, and they're still not hitting over in San Francisco. They seemed dead. They didn't really seem like they had anything left in the tank. But here's the hitting stat line. Lindor 0 for 2 with 2 walks and a strikeout. Soto 1 for 4 with a run scored and a strikeout. Bo Bichette 1 for 4 with an RBI and a strikeout. Jorge Polanco 0 for 4 with a strikeout. Luis Robert Jr. 0 for 3 with a walk and 2 strikeouts. Mark Vientos 1 for 4 with a RBI and 2 strikeouts. Marcus Semien 1 for 3. Francisco Alvarez 1 for 3 with a strikeout, and Tyrone Taylor 0 for 3 with a strikeout. The Mets went 0 for 3 with runners in scoring position and left 4 runners on base. And all the scoring basically for the Mets came off a Bo Bichette RBI double in the top of the 1st, and then a solo shot by Mark Vientos in the top of the 2nd, who I did not very much have high hopes for, but he proved me wrong. He had the big hit, but then he didn't really have that great of a rest of a start playing at first base, while the Giants were just all over the Mets. East with an RBI triple in the bottom of the 1st, and then Chapman with an RBI double. It was already 3-1 Giants after the 1st inning. Jung-Hoo Lee reached on a an error. That error was by David Peterson, which was a missed catch error apparently. Then Jung-Hoo Lee with a sacrifice fly in the bottom of the third, along with Bader with a sacrifice fly in the third, made it 5-2. Casey Schmidt with an RBI single made it 6-2, and then Devers again with his solo shot made it 7-2, as the Giants basically just dominated against the Mets in this game to take game one of the series. So I'm already thinking, well, we're dead. This means that this is just great. We're dead. This is just the way that the Mets are going to be. And an interesting stat that I have to pull up is, let me take a look, because I posted this on my story, because again, I was not a very happy camper when after this game. And I think I said something saying like they have nothing or something like that. It was something to go with, here it is. The Mets in this game, so this was when they dropped their third straight, they were hitting .134, 13 for 97, and gone 0 for 18 with runners in scoring position. So they were having a very rough stretch of time. I mean, they already came off only having one run in the span of 23 innings over in St. Louis, and then they only scored 2 runs in this first game, and that came in the first and the second. So it was not a great start for the Mets in the series, but things would pick up as we moved into game 2. A huge bounce back for the Mets as they scored double digits against the Giants, 10-3. It's the second time they've scored double digits this season. Of course, the first time they did it was against the not the Milwaukee Brewers. Pittsburgh Pirates on opening day, winning 11-7. They win this game 10-3. Nolan McLean with the win. Tyler Mahle with the loss for the Giants. And it was one of those games that the Mets really, really needed. So looking at the pitching stat lines, Nolan McLean was fantastic. 5 in the third, 1 hit, two runs, 1 of them were earned, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. He was perfect through 5 innings he pitched. Brooks Raley with an inning, 2/3 of an inning, 1 strikeout. Huascar Brazuban with 1 inning pitched gave up a hit and a strikeout. Richard Lovelady actually pitched. He pitched like Richard Lovelady. Let's be honest with ourselves. 1 inning, 2 hits, 1 earned run, 1 walk, 1 strikeout. And then Luis Garcia came out in the 9th, 1 hit, 1 strikeout to end a 3-game skid that the Mets were currently on going into game 2 of this series. And then the hitting, Francisco Lindor went 2 for 4 with 2 hits, a walk, and a strikeout. Juan Soto went 1 for 1. We'll get to him in just a second. Tyrone Taylor pinch hitted for him. He went 0 for 4 with a strikeout. Bichette with a big game, 3 for 5, 2 runs scored, an RBI and a strikeout. Luis Robert Jr. 1 for 3 with an RBI and 2 walks. Brett Beatty 1 for 5 with an RBI. 1 for 5 with an RBI, runs scored, and 3 strikeouts. He didn't have the greatest day at the plate. Mark Vientos, who is one of those people that you want to highlight in this series, went 2 for 3 with a run scored, an RBI, 2 walks, and a strikeout. Marcus Semien, a big bounce back game for him, 3 for 5 with a run scored, 3 RBIs. Really good to see out of Marcus Semien, and a strikeout. Carson Bench 0 for 4 with an RBI, a walk, and a strikeout. And then Francisco Alvarez 2 for 5, 2 runs scored, 2 RBIs, no walks, and a strikeout. So moving on to Juan Soto. Juan Soto was pulled from this game due to right calf tightness. It was unconfirmed what would be happening. He would have an MRI imaging on Saturday. And then they recently came out with a decision on him on Monday, which we will get to right after we are done recapping this series. The scoring in this game was, pretty straightforward. Bo Bichette with an RBI single in the top of the first, along with an RBI single by Marcus Semien, with bases loaded, might I add, made it 2-0. Marcus Semien then with a 2-run home run In the top of the fourth, his first of the season, then Alvarez with his second home run of the season, making it a 5-0 cushion for the Mets going into the bottom of the sixth. Willie Adames hit a ground rule double to make it 5-1 New York. That was when they would eventually pull Nolan McLean. That was the only hit he gave up in this game. Again, a great start out of Nolan McLean, something to very much look out for with this Mets team moving forward. Francisco Alvarez then San Francisco then scored again on a pass ball from Francisco Alvarez. Then he he made up for the mistake with a solo shot of his own in the top of the seventh. Then Luis Robert Jr. with an RBI single. Then Vientos with an RBI single. Make it 8-2 New York in the eighth. Bottom of the eighth, Araiz with an RBI single. That was off Richard Lovelady. And then in the top of the ninth, Brett Beatty with an RBI double. And Carson Benj would ground into a force out to make it 10-3, which would ultimately be the final score as the Mets would break out of their woes of losing a 3-game losing streak, break out of that 3-game losing streak. They were 6 for 14 with runners in scoring position and had 8 men left on base. But when you're scoring 10 runs, it really does not mean a whole lot. So let's move on to Game 3. And Game 3 might have been a whole lot better than Game 1. And the reason I say that is because it was a 9-0 shutout for the Mets in this one. Clay Holmes with the win, Landon Roop with the loss for the Giants. And it was something that really needed to happen due to the case that Juan Soto's not in the lineup. There's a lot of factors here. Tyrone Taylor, who did not have the greatest of nights last night, was inserted back into this lineup. People were a little concerned of what he was going to be able to do. And, well, he wasn't inserted into this lineup. Jared Young actually started the game in left field. Then Tyrone Taylor actually came in to pinch hit and play left field. And he had himself a heck of a night, and we'll break that down in just a second. But here's the pitching stat lines. Clay Holmes, 7 innings pitched, 3 hits, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. He was fantastic. A great start out of Clay Holmes. And then Tobias Myers came in for 2 innings of work and only had 1 strikeout, but really not much to write home about. The Mets pitching had 5 strikeouts in this game, 2 walks, and three hits allowed. Only 3 hits by San Francisco all night long. Then here are the hitting stat lines. The only guy that really didn't, well, there was a couple people that didn't really do a whole lot in this game. Lindor 0 for 5 with 2 strikeouts. Bo Bichette 2 for 5 with a run scored, an RBI, and 2 strikeouts. Jorge Polanco 0 for 5 with 2 strikeouts. Brett Beatty 2 for 5 with 2 runs scored and a strikeout. Mark Vientos 3 for 5 with 2 runs and an RBI. It seemed like no one could keep him off the base paths for how well he was doing. Jared Young then 0 for 1 with a run scored and a walk. As I said, Tyrone Taylor coming in the pinch hitting spot, a great bounce back game for him as he went 2 for 3 with a run scored and 4 RBIs, a career night for Tyrone Taylor. Marcus Semien 2 for 3 with a run scored, a walk, and a strikeout. Carson Benj, who has looked a little shaky, not being able to catch up to the fastball, looking like he's a little bit uncomfortable up there. It's going to be something to monitor going into this homestand against both the Diamondbacks and the A's. He went 0 for 4 with a RBI and 2 strikeouts. Luis Torrens 1 for 4 with a run scored and an RBI. The Mets in this game went 5 for 11 with runners in scoring position and left 6 men on base. The scoring in this game was, again, pretty straightforward as the Mets would do all the scoring in this game. Benj reached on a fielding error by third baseman Matt Chapman, which scored 2, made it 2-0 early for the Mets. Torrens then with an RBI groundout made it 3-0 in the top of the second. Bo Bichette with an RBI single and Mark Vientos with an RBI single made it 5-0. And then Tyrone Taylor brings the hammer down with a 3-run home run in that top of the 5th inning to make it 8-0 New York and it seemed all but over until again he comes up with an RBI single in the top of the seventh to make it 9-0, just to add a little more salt into the wound of San Francisco, as the Mets would win their second game in a row and have now a 2-1 advantage against San Francisco, as they would, they would tie up the. No, they were 2-1 advantage on San Francisco, as they would look to win the series the following night. Would they? Well, indeed they would. They would win 5-2 against San Francisco. Huascar Brazuban got the win. Keaton win with the loss for San Francisco. And of course, Devin Williams, who has looked a lot like his old self back in Milwaukee, grabbing his second save of the season. The pitching stat line in this game: Kodai Senga, 5 2/3, 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts. It was a good game out of Senga. Hopefully we can get a little bit more length the next time out. Huascar Brazuban, who picked up the win in this game, as mentioned, 1 1/3 innings, nothing across the board. Luke Weaver went 1 inning, nothing across the board. And then Devin Williams with an inning, 2 hits, and a strikeout. Especially a great job by Francisco Alvarez behind the plate to be able to nail, and I mean nail, Matt Chapman over at second to get him a crucial first out in that bottom of the ninth. The hitting stat line: Lindor 0 for 5 with a strikeout. He has struggled mightily at the plate, hopefully looking to break out in this series coming up against Arizona. Bo Bichette 0 for 4 with a walk. Jorge Polanco 2 for 4 with just 2 for 4. Tyrone Taylor then pinch ran for him. He went 0 for 1 with a run scored. Luis Robert Jr. went 3 for 5 with 2 runs scored. Jared Young went 3 for 3, believe it or not. Didn't have an RBI across the board, but had a great day. And then Luis Torrens, pinch hitting for him, would go 1 for 2 with a run scored and 2 RBIs. Again, we will get into the scoring to talk about that. Vientos 2 for 4 with a run scored and an RBI. Again, he's been hot, very hot as of late. Semien 1 for 4 with an RBI and a strikeout. Carson Bench 0 for 3 with a walk and a strikeout. Alvarez 1 for 3 with 2 strikeouts. So great day out of the Mets, as they would pick up this victory. They went 6 for 15 with runners in scoring position and left 9 men on base. And now the scoring of this game: Mark Vientos would lead it off with an RBI single in the top of the second to make it 1-0 against San Francisco. But then Matt Chapman with an RBI double of his own in the bottom of the sixth would get to Kodai Senga to make it 1-1. Then Rafael Devers with an RBI single made it 2-1 San Francisco, and that's the way it would stand until the top of the eighth, as Luis Torrens pinch hitting for Jared Young with a very clutch 2-run RBI double to bring New York a 3-2 lead in the top of the eighth. Mark Vientos would then capitalize with an RBI single, and then Marcus Semien would cap it off with an RBI double to finish it 5-2 for New York. That would be their third win in a row for the Mets, as again they head back home today against the Arizona Diamondbacks at approximately 4:10 due to the cold weather. I heard it's going to be freezing, low 30s. So if you are going to the game today, bundle up, stay warm. Make sure you have make sure if they do have hot chocolate, which I'm pretty sure they'll be selling hot chocolate, please keep yourself warm today. And if you aren't going, honestly, it's the best choice. There's so many more games going on in the summer in warmer weather. If you are going, then I salute you, and I hope you are able to stay warm. But now, the big topic that I was talking about, Juan Soto. Soto is going on the IL. He is going to be out 2 to 3 weeks with right calf tightness. It is a rough blow for the Mets lineup, but they have been able to grab these 3 wins without Juan Soto in the lineup and have been doing very well. And that's a big part to Mark Vientos heating up with the bat and Marcus Semien heating up with the bat. There's a lot of pieces that have been going on with this team now on this 3-game winning streak, is that they're able to figure out getting those runs in when they have a lot of traffic on base. And that's something that needs to continue to have more continued success. But also a big shout out to the pitching. Nolan McLean with a fantastic start in game 2 of this series. Also, along with Clay Holmes, who went 7 innings scoreless in that game against San Francisco in game 3. And then Kodai Senga had a very decent start against the San Francisco Giants, only giving up 2 runs. That's a great job out of this starting rotation, and something that you really want to see out of this back half of the rotation. The only guy that really needs to step it up in this rotation right now is David Peterson, and hopefully he can pick it up in the next start that he has, which I believe is tomorrow against the Diamondbacks. So hopefully he can pick it up going on from there. But someone asked me in my, again, on Instagram, they asked me this question. It's from Dylan in the from the Mets group chat. He asked if Juan Soto is out for 8 to 10 weeks, what's their plan? 8 to 10 weeks is very unlikely, I would say. It's very unlikely that Juan Soto is out for 8 to 10 weeks because of the type of competitor that he is. He's going to work his tail off in rehab, and he's going to be back or try to be back as fast as humanly possible, because that's just the type of freak that Juan Soto is. And the person to come up to replace him will be Ronnie Mauricio, who we saw last year. He played okay. He wasn't really the greatest for the Mets. Again, he had his stint over in AAA. Here we go. Last season, with a 226 average, 6 home runs, 10 RBIs, and 38 hits for Ronnie Mauricio, who was also injured a lot last season as well. But now it's time to prove yourself. So let's see what he can do. And he's a switch hitter. He's got a lot of power. You never know. Hopefully Mauricio can be a good guy out of this pen, not out of this pen, for this lineup. So now let's take a look at today's game. Of course, the New York Mets are now facing the Arizona Diamondbacks to start a 6-game homestand. 4:10 is the start time for this game today. Zach Gallen will be on the hill for the Arizona Diamondbacks, who is someone to look out for if you're the Mets, because he has a track record of being a nuisance against the Mets. But the Mets will have their ace, Freddie Peralta, on the hill for them today. And the starting lineups recently just came out, so let's take a quick look of who we have. And let's take a quick look of who will be starting for both teams. For the Arizona Diamondbacks, batting leadoff is Ketel Marte. Batting second is Corbin Carroll. Batting third is Geraldo Perdomo. Batting fourth is Gabriel Moreno. Batting fourth is Adrian Del Castillo. Batting sixth is Nolan Arenado, the veteran. Batting seventh is Ildemaro Vargas. Batting eighth is Alek Thomas. And batting ninth is Jorge Barosa. Again, Marte batting leadoff, Carroll batting second, Perdomo batting third, Moreno batting fourth, Del Castillo batting fifth, Arenado batting sixth, Vargas batting seventh, Thomas batting eighth, and Barosa batting ninth. Now the starting lineup for your New York Mets. Francisco Lindor, of course, still in that leadoff spot, hoping to break out. He has no RBIs this season, so that's something to look out for. And he's also got a .135 average, so hopefully he can pick it up in this homestand. Bo Bichette batting second for the Mets. He had a great road trip over in San Francisco, hoping to see some more on this homestand. Jorge Polanco, who has been dealing with a flaring Achilles injury, batting third. Luis Robert Jr. batting fourth in the cleanup spot. I like that move. Hopefully seeing some more power out of him today. Brett Baty batting fifth. He's got 4 RBIs on the season. Mark Vientos batting sixth. Very hot start, very hot bat coming out of San Francisco. Marcus Semien batting 7th. Again, another hot bat coming out of San Francisco. Carson Bench batting 8th. Hopefully he can start picking it up and being able to get better at bats at the major league level. And then Francisco Alvarez batting 9th for the Mets. One more time, Lindor batting leadoff, Bichette batting 2nd, Polanco batting 3rd, Robert Jr. in the cleanup spot, Brett Baty batting 5th, Vientos batting 6th, Semien batting 7th, Carson Bench batting 8th, and Francisco Alvarez is batting 9th for the Mets today. So let's see, because I also had another question that just came in from my girlfriend. She said, if anything, I'm just curious on Bo and if he will make any improvements as the season continues. To answer your question, Bichette has had he had a very great series over in San Francisco, picking up those RBIs that I previously mentioned. A couple of those RBIs also came in that St. Louis series, but he looked a lot better. He's looking more confident at the plate. He's taking better at bats. And that's something that you really need to rely on with Bichette. Again, he's still getting comfortable at third base. So unfortunately, errors are going to happen. But hopefully not a lot of errors that are going to cost the Mets runs in crucial spots. But to the people saying that Bo Bichette isn't playing the greatest, I say take a chill pill. It's okay. He's still learning how to play the position. He's going to get there. And also, take, for instance, Mets fans, we're only in game 11. I know I freaked out. I know I ranted. I know I did all that stuff last week when we had that horrible series against the Cardinals. But the thing is, I have to learn this early. And my buddy Brendan can, of course, because he's a Red Sox fan, look at Boston. It could be a lot worse for New York right now. They could be playing like a Boston Red Sox right now. And that's not giving a stray over to the Red Sox, but they have been playing horribly. Everybody just looks out of sync. Losing Bregman has been a crucial error in that Boston organization. There's fans saying to sell the team. It is not great over in Boston right now. So again, the Mets could be in that spot that they could be like the Red Sox right now, but thankfully they're not. So this game today, of course, is on SMY for the Mets. Of course, Gary, Keith, and Ron will have the call for you at 4:10 Eastern as the Mets take on the Diamondbacks. But now let's talk about who is the star of the series for the Mets in this series against the San Francisco Giants. And if I had to give it to anyone based on performance alone, I think I would give it to Marcus Semien. And the reason I give it to Semien is because he didn't look the greatest in game 1. That's for granted. But a 3 RBI game in game 2. Then he went 2 for 3 in game 3 against the Giants, and then picked up another RBI, picked up another RBI in game 4 of this series. Or actually, maybe it would be because it's difficult because there's a lot of key guys that did really well in this series. So it's very tough to pick a star of the series because the whole offense, excluding Lindor and Polanco, did very well for the Mets in this series against the Giants. So it's very tough to pick. But I think it's clear as day who the low light is. Low life. Jeez. Let me reassess. The low light of the series is between Carson Bench and Francisco Lindor. And Lindor has just looked horrible. I mean, the only game that he really has done anything since... the only game that he really did anything in this series was 2 hits in the second game of this series. Other than that, he took an 0-for in game 3, and he took an 0-for in game 4. He has not looked the greatest as of late. But again, I know Lindor is usually off to a rough start or a slow start in the start of April. So who knows? But new month, hopefully excuse me, things can pick up, and hopefully the Mets can bring home a big win against the Arizona Diamondbacks today and start off a great homestand as they sit at 6-4 and the Diamondbacks sit at 5-5. So who knows? Let's see what happens for the Mets today. Thank you all for listening to this episode of the Bleed Orange and Blue podcast. And hopefully the Mets can pick up a good Game 1 victory as Peralta takes the hill for the Amazings today. My name is TJ Labby. Thank you for listening to the Bleed Orange and Blue podcast. And for this episode, you can put it in the books.